Can he do it again? Mike did it. Billy stops, pops, Billy, the hero, again, a back-to-back nights. Oh, boy. 1.5 seconds, no timeouts. Tyreek at the hole. Oh, my goodness. Cousins gets a touch, and he helps out. That is a man's jam! DeMarcus Cousins nearly brought down the backboard and rim.
You're now listening to the Kings Court Podcast, presented by SacKingsNation.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Kings Court Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Miracle. Joining me, as always, is the one and only Joe Morgan. Joe, what's going on, man?
Another beautiful day. The Kings schedule is out. The 2017 Sacramento Kings schedule is in my hand, so we can discuss it. How amazing is that?
Finally, some relevant news to talk about, if this is even news.
Man, it's basketball time again.
Almost. I mean, we still got a couple weeks till preseason, but we are getting there, Joe. We are finally getting there.
Around there. I'm holding it in my hand. It's as real as it needs to be until the actual ball goes through the hoop. I mean, I'm holding it. I'm looking at it. I can see it. I can feel it. It's time. It's time.
With that now out of the way. Well, before we start off on our show, I do want to let guys know, yes, I did say the show was going to be on Tuesday, but due to things that happen in our own personal lives and really there's nothing going on, we decided to push it to Friday, Joe, and I think that's okay. I don't think we missed anything.
Well, when we heard the schedule was coming out, it didn't make any sense to record it yesterday, and then, or even the day before. When you're hearing what's happening, you go, well, what are we going to talk about? Let's wait until the schedule comes out and we can have a good show instead of a forced show.
And then on top of that, we are doing so much behind the scenes stuff for this upcoming season that we can't even discuss about yet, but just so you guys know, it's amazing and you guys are gonna love it. Just also the YouTube channel, if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel already, go ahead and do so. You can start listening to these shows on our YouTube channel. I'm gonna start making these things into videos, posting them up there. They're not gonna be visual videos, it's gonna be the logo there, but if you guys by some reason have not already started listening to this show from SacKingsNation.com, from SoundCloud, from subscribing on iTunes or Stitcher, well, guess what? We're putting it on another platform for you guys. It's going to be YouTube, and you guys can subscribe there. Another big thing that's happening on that channel, if you guys do not know, I am a writer, contributor, and a big helping hand over there at hoop-ball.com, and one of my jobs is hosting and co-hosting the NBA Fantasy NBA Today podcast for that channel. And we did promise you guys a fantasy basketball podcast last season. We did right around 4 episodes. We had Alan Golch here from FanDuel.com come on, and we had a couple guys from Roto World come on the show. And guess what? That is happening, but instead of it being under the Sac Kings Nation platform, we're still going to be posting on the Sac Kings Nation YouTube channel, but it's going to be a hoop-ball production. Guess what? They let us post it on our channel. So guess what? Our promise is true. Your fantasy NBA stuff is coming to the YouTube channel. Go subscribe there because I'm not posting it on the iTunes channel because I am not allowed to do that. But with all that out of the way, Joe, are you ready to talk about the 2016-2017 Sacramento Kings schedule?
Oh, man, I am so ready. I've been waiting for this all day, and when it finally got in my hands, I was staring at which games we need to do group events for, which games we need to go to, what are my must-attend games, and it's going to be a heck of a fun season. I can't stress enough how enjoyable it's going to be in a new arena.
So how we're going to do this, guys, is we're going to just go down month by month, talking about the biggest games that we see in each month. And then to round out the show, Joe has his top 5 must-watch games of the season, the games that you do not want to miss, the games that, you know what, we may even be having tickets on the show to be giving away and selling. So be sure to stay tuned till the end of that. But, Joe, let's start off with month number 1. It comes on It's the month of October, and the very first game is actually not in Sacramento. It is in Phoenix, but just to run down the 4-game schedule here that in the month of October, I'm not going to do this for every month, guys, but to start off the season, the first 4 games are against the Phoenix Suns in Phoenix, the San Antonio Spurs, the very first game in the new Golden One Arena, the Minnesota Timberwolves still at home, and then the Atlanta Hawks. Joe, you're looking at October. What is your number 1 game to watch?
I think the most important game to watch there is October 29th against Minnesota. I think they have a young team coming up, and whether or not Sacramento can handle them is going to be a big showing of how well they're going to play this year. The San Antonio game, I hate to say it, boys and girls, does not look good as the opening night on the second night of a back-to-back at home. It's just going to be ugly. So I think the 29th is going to be the real test of whether or not they can handle the talent.
Of the 4 games, the game I'm most excited to see definitely is Minnesota. We agree on that part. I want to see Karl Anthony Towns in action. I want to see how this team of such young ass. I mean, just think of that team: Ricky Rubio, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, and Gorgie Dang. Wow, that's such a young athletic team and such a fun team to watch. I want to watch that team. And the cool thing is that they are in Sacramento for that game. So guess what? You know I'm going to be there. Another game that I'm actually pretty interested in watching is that Atlanta game. And it's the very first time we're going to be seeing the matchup of Dwight Howard versus DeMarcus Cousins. And as much as everyone used to say Dwight Howard was one of the best centers in the league, his athleticism is gone. And if it's just me, it might just be me, but I love it when DeMarcus Cousins just owns Dwight Howard. It's one of my favorite things to watch because it just proves how one of a kind of a center that he really is. He's not the shot blocking, run up and down the court center like DeAndre Jordan. He's not just the stand at the top, shoot the mid-range jumper like an Al Horford. He's a guy who has a pretty good handle for a center, can put his back to the basket, can stretch the floor out all the way to 3-point range. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins has it all, and I love when he gets to go up against talents like a Dwight Howard, who he normally always puts in his highlight reel for the season. So I'm excited for that game as well.
Well, and of course, the opening night at Phoenix against the team that just doesn't look very good, it's going to be nice to hopefully have the Kings open the season with a win. Again, I think that San Antonio game is probably not going to go the way Kings fans hope. And then Minnesota, that's why I think it's going to be the test, because do you start the season 2-1 or 1-2? And that's going to be, it doesn't seem that huge because it's only 3 games into the season, but to me that's going to be a real test of how is this team already melted together, how are they working together, how are things happening, and can they make it 2-1 rather than 1-2?
I cannot wait until we start redoing the Kings Week segment and we start doing our friendly bets on the show of who's going to get the pie to the face, who's going to be doing the on-show karaoke, because just so you know, Joe, when we had Drew Runberg on the show and we started doing the Kings Week segment, someone was the bigger loser, and it wasn't because he lost weight. It's because he lost to me. So, just saying, prepare for some L's.
Yeah, there's somebody between the two of us who still deserves, what was the bet, 4 times with the rubber band? 5? I don't recall now.
As we move on to November here. Oh, man, I hate the NBA draft sometimes. As we move on to November here, wow, they got a big slate of games. I'm not going to run them down to the top. So, Joe, I'm just going to automatically throw it over to you. We actually do see our very first nationally televised game in the month of November. They're going to be on TNT against the Los Angeles Lakers, but I highly doubt that's the game you're looking at. Or am I wrong, Joe?
No, I think that'd be a fun game to attend because, it's the first nationally televised game from the arena, and that's going to be fun. But, no, I don't think that's the most important game in November. I think November, the real test, it sounds funny, but I want to say when OKC comes to town because, again, I'm under the impression that their team has really fallen apart, and with Ibaka gone, with Durant gone, Westbrook's going to have to carry it by himself, and yeah, there's a few additions, but my point remains. I think that's going to be an interesting game to watch to see not only how the Kings react, but also how is Oklahoma City playing.
I'm just saying, don't underestimate. Oklahoma City will be in the playoffs.
I know
next year.
Westbrook is Westbrook, and I'm not saying he's not going to be able to.
Oladipo is Oladipo.
No, again, I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs. I want to see how that team has gelled together by that point in the season. You're talking November 23rd. You're a month into the new year. What happens? How are they playing? What's going to happen in this league? Because it's not just about the Kings, but about the entire NBA. Watching that game, live is going to be really interesting to me. For Kings fans only, I'm trying to go down this and find one that I think would be the most important for Kings fans only. And I'd have to say, I guess, I don't know, maybe the at Portland game, but that's not going to be. Go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking.
My favorite game, honestly, on the schedule is definitely the Clippers game, and it's a home game, and on top of that, it's on ESPN. And I'll never forget the time where DeMarcus Cousins, after a game against the Clippers, he said, "I hate that team. Like, he does not like play. His rival is the LA Clippers. Everyone knows the beef between him and Chris Paul. He's put it on blast on the Bill Simmons podcast a while back. Is it still there? Probably not. I mean, the beef is probably over. But I mean, Isaiah Thomas, do not give that man a handshake." The other game after that I'm very interested in, though, is the Houston Rockets. And the main reason why I'm interested in that game is because I think the Houston Rockets are a train wreck waiting to happen. They are a team that's literally going to be running as fast as they can and not stopping anyone anytime soon. Eric Gordon plays absolutely no defense. James Harden plays absolutely no defense. Ryan Anderson plays absolutely no defense. You have Clint Capella, foul trouble. So your best defender is Trevor Ariza, who's on the perimeter. And then what are you doing with Patrick Beverley? Is he coming off the bench? Is he still starting? Because I do not think they brought in Eric Gordon to come off the bench. So that means James Harden's the point guard. From a fantasy perspective, I think he's going to be a top 3 talent without a doubt, especially in D'Antoni's offense. But I'm really excited to see an up and down team, and just that 7 seconds or less offense surrounding James Harden. I want to play out, and I just want to see the rails fall off on that team. I'm very excited for that one. But I think the two games that I'm definitely eyeballing are the Clippers and the Rockets. If I had to put to an East Coast team, one of my favorite teams to watch that's an East Coast team is the Washington Wizards. And normally I would have said that, but the team I'm going to bring up is actually the Milwaukee Bucks. And mainly due to the fact that I'm really intrigued with that length that they have, and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Thon Maker and all those young talents that they have over there. And I'm really high on Jabari Parker. And if anyone saw that Australia game last night, and we're doing the show on Thursday, Matthew Dellavedova, I mean, that defense, he's going to fit right in. I think he's the missing point guard that they need, because I am not a huge fan of Michael Carter-Williams. I
think the other game in November that we kind of overlooked is the New Orleans game. The fact, watching DeMarcus Cousins play against Anthony Davis is always a treat. And
yeah, but it's a New Orleans. Is there 4 of their starting 5 players going to be on the floor by the time we play them?
Not even injury the point. Prone. Whether or not there's a poster made of that game is always my question. Has nothing to do with the actual outcome of the game so much as who is going to own who. And I like to believe I know the answer to that, but it's always fun to watch.
As we move on to December here, I already have 2 games off the top of my head, and I'm going to give a big shout out to our very first Trivia Rumble winner, Eli Zakharoff, because his team is the New York Knicks. He came into the studio when we played that game wearing all Knickerbockers gear. And guess what, Joe? Every year when the Knicks come to town, I do not go there as press. I do not go there watching that game as trying to figure out what's going on the floor. No, I go there as a fan of the Sacramento Kings, making sure that they destroy the New York Knicks. Why? Because we have a big group of people that always go to these games. We don't sit down in the lower levels. We're in the nosebleed seats. We're having beers and we're yelling at each other in these seats. We get our section so riled up, the people in front of us start joining the side that they join. There's so many Knicks fans out in Sacramento. I love it, and I love that game. So I'm already throwing my 2 cents out there. Is the New York Knicks game. It's kind of an unfair, bias thing, because I have a personal vendetta against that team because of friends that I have. But that's the game I'm eyeballing right off the top of my head. What about you?
2 games really intrigue me. One is at Dallas, December 18th. The concept, again, being I'm interested to see how Dallas is playing this year. There's so many people in the middle area of the Western Conference that are I won't say neck and neck, but very, very close when it comes to who's going to land where. Just like last year, there's the top two guys that you know who they are, and then everything below that is kind of a guess at this point because there are so many what ifs surrounding I'd even say number 3 through number 10. There's just a lot of what ifs this year, and so again, I want to see how Dallas is doing at that point. It'll be an interesting game. And then the home game that I really want to see is the day after Christmas, December 26th, Philadelphia. They have a young roster, and it's always fun to see young guys coming up, how they've progressed, how they're playing, and what they're doing.
So if I'm not looking at the Knicks, I think that the one more intriguing game that you want to keep your eye on, it comes on December 16th, and it's the very first time Dave Yeager plays up against his former team, the Memphis Grizzlies. I think that'll be a fun game to watch and to see the ovation that he's going to get because from all accounts of what we heard and from that interview that you did earlier in this offseason with Joe Mullinax of Grizzly Bear Blues, everyone in Memphis, especially from the fans, loved him, and he'll be going back there facing against his former team. And he gets to do it twice in that month, one in his former house and one here in the Golden One Arena. The second game that I really do want to keep my eye on, and I think that as a Western Conference standings, if you're just looking at that as a whole, you want to keep an eye on this team because I'm very high on this team, especially when you guys will see how high when we get to our power rankings, our way too early power rankings, I should say. But when we get to that episode, you'll see how high I have this team. But on December 10th, when the Utah Jazz come, or when the Kings go into Utah, I think that is a game to watch. I think that is a game where you're going to see DeMarcus Cousins push to his limits, Darren Collison push to his limits, Rudy Gay push to his limits, because that team literally has no holes in their game. From top to bottom, from their starting five to their bench, they are solid. And I think the Utah Jazz is a team you just have to look out for. And I'm really excited to see how the Sacramento Kings team faces up against them on December 10th. All right, Joe, we are going to move on into January, the month of this guy's birthday.
2017, a whole new year.
A new year, a new day. And you know what? What's cool for the Kings players is they not only get to play against Dave Yeager's former team on December 31st, but after they bring in the new year, they don't have to play for 2 days. Who do you think's getting drunk and posting Instagram pictures?
Half the team. This is Sacramento, man.
All I'm going to say is on that day, I might start following quite a few of them Snapchats because I want to see some of those parties.
Yeah, there's going to be some entertaining stuff going on on the old Snapchat over those couple days.
All right, Joe, what games in the month of January, in the new year of 2017, what games do you have on your mind?
You cannot miss the Golden State Warriors coming to Sacramento. It's a team that has been put together that looks, just amazing on paper, and it's hard to look away. Last year they put on a show, and this year I don't see it being much different. I don't know how they don't play amazing basketball, and it's going to be hard to look away from that. And again, you put Durant on the floor, it's impossible to name that roster and not just shudder. And whether or not the Kings can even put up a defense against that is going to be interesting to watch.
It's going to be more interesting to watch that during their 7-game homestand, all 7 teams were teams that were in the playoffs just last season. The Miami Heat, the Los Angeles Clippers, Golden State Warriors, Detroit Pistons, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. 3 of those teams were either in the conference finals or the finals. That's just ridiculous. And to play the champions and the runner-ups within 3 days, or 4 days apart, man, that is gonna be rough. And it's actually 5 days apart.
Yeah, 5 days, but all right. I was letting you slide.
Bam, thanks, my homie. So the 2 games I have on the top of my head, and this has for no reason at all, is January 4th and January 6th. Come on, NBA, put a game on the 5th because that's my birthday. And if anyone wants to get me anything, I'm addicted to string cheese and Bud Light. Send them over.
He's sending a shout out to himself there. At VM Center, please send string cheese.
And Bud Light. Don't forget the combo.
Oh,
No,
good Lord.
but really, but for the month of January, I think that the only thing that I have on my mind, yes, it's cool to see that the Golden State Warriors are going to be into town. The reigning champs are going to be in the town. OKC is coming into town with Russell Westbrook. All that's cool. That's awesome. But the Kings are going to lose. I mean, if they beat them, amazing. That's cool. That's great. Everyone will be jumping up for joy, me being one of them. But I think you have to keep your eye on the fact that it's a 7-game homestand flipped to a 7-game away trip, 7-game road trip.
7-game road trip right after that, January 20th through the 31st, and that is going to be, talk about a brutal month. First you face 7 people in a row who were in the playoffs, then you go on the road for 7 games in a row. January is going to be a long month in Sacramento.
Not only that, you face the champions in the same exact month, and it's 12 days apart. So they are in for a very, very rough start to 2017. And I think how they handle themselves in that homestand against, again, I brought this up just a second ago, and I might have said it a little fast. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. All 7 teams in that 7-game homestand were in the playoffs last year. 3 of those teams, the Warriors, the Cavs, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, conference finals and finals. Detroit Pistons put up a fight against the Cavs. Yes, they got swept, but they put up a fight. The Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade, veteran, now gone. Can they be as strong as they once were? That's going to be a tough game, especially with on Whiteside blocking shots out there. So, very excited to see how they're going to handle themselves on that 7-game homestand, because that's going to show a lot of results of what's going to happen in 2017. They need to get off onto the right foot when it comes to that.
Well, and with Garrett Temple and Anthony Tolliver both being voted as best teammate to their respective teams last year and coming in, I'm really going to be watching them in the month of January to see how they can affect that locker room, maybe to have a better result than last year when there was a losing stretch.
As we now move into the month of February, the month of love, Valentine's Day.
I'm just ignoring you right now. I'm just looking at the schedule and thinking here, because again, you and your silliness. I think Atlanta is going to be a really, really tough game. I think that they're going to be playing really, really well this year, and that's February 10th in Sacramento. I'm sorry, wow, I was stuttering there. And of course, I love to see the Bulls come into town. There's just some silliness in my head that still sees Michael Jordan rolling through, and so there's something about Chicago, even though they're not nearly quite the same. But there's just something about a Chicago game.
That's actually the game. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the game that I have circled for the month of February. And the main reason why is that it's the very first time Rajon Rondo returns to Sacramento.
Yeah, won't that be interesting? Darren Collison against Rajon Rondo. How is that going to play out? Talk about a storyline that I can't wait to write.
Man, I just want to see that Chicago team throughout the season and where they're at this point of the season, because you have just the most awkward trio of players with Dwayne Wade there, Rajon Rondo, and Jimmy Butler. And then what they're doing at the center position, I'm assuming it's going to be Robin Lopez starting, but it could be Taj Gibson. And just for fantasy player-wise, if you guys want to know a player that you want to have on your must-draft list, I do not think you should leave off Nikola Mirotic, because he's the only guy out of all 3 of those players that can actually shoot the 3 ball. And just so you guys know, and if you don't believe me, through Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, and Rajon Rondo combined, they still shot less 3-pointers, or made 3-pointers, than Nikola Mirotic did last season. It was only by 2, but still, combined, they lost by 2 to Nikola Mirotic. So keep him on your team, fantasy perspective. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see Rajon Rondo make his return to Sacramento with Chicago. Let us now move down to the month of March, where they start off with Brooklyn. Joe, what games are you looking at?
Again, OKC, March 18th at Oklahoma City. I think that'll be another really telling game. It's closing out the season. It's starting to get, low on games remaining, and where the Kings are at that point. And then I would say definitely the very next day in San Antonio. How do you play under pressure against one of the top 3 teams in the NBA?
I'm very excited to see. Washington. They're actually going to be here in Sacramento. John Wall is one of my favorite point guards in the league. Russell Westbrook beats him, but John Wall's right there. The way he passes the ball, the way he moves up and down the floor, just the way he dominates his team. And I'm very excited to see how he works out under a guy like Scotty Brooks. I think the Denver Nuggets, the fact that you're going to be facing them on the 6th and on the 11th, and you're going to see that matchup between Michael Malone and his former team, that's always going to be a fun game to watch. And I think Denver is one of those up-and-coming teams that do not get mentioned enough. But, yeah, I think the game that I have just on my list alone is the Washington Wizards. And, of course, I'm going to bring them up again, and this is going to be the second time I bring them up on the show, is look out for the Utah Jazz. They come into town twice. Go watch them, because that is a team that I think the Kings should be trying to basically form.
Trying to emulate what they're doing over there, because they grew their team correctly.
Not only that, but just look at the way they set up their team. They have a guy in Derek Favors who is a post monster. They have Rudy Gobert, shot blocking big man. They have Gordon Hayward as their 3 who can knock down shots, move around the perimeter as a decent passer. They have a roundabout type of carousel of point guards that can come in and be a very, very effective. Shelvin Mack, George Hill, Dante Exum. I mean, they have so many guys. Then they have at the shooting guard position, Alec Burks. And again, all those guys can switch back and forth between the 1 and the 2 spot. That's why I think Darren Collison is a huge asset to this team. And on the last year of his deal, I'm probably one of the very few that think the Kings need to find a way to extend him, because I think he would be at a decent price and he'd be a nice fit for this team if they want him as a super sub or as a starter. But keep an eye on that Utah Jazz team. They're in Sacramento twice that month, on the 29th and on the 5th. So look out for that team. And again, when we do our power rankings, I think you guys may be a little bit surprised on how high I have them.
I don't think I will. I actually I have them fairly high myself, so we'll have to compare notes. I have them pretty high on my list too.
We are rounding out the season, Joe. Can they get more than 33 wins as they did last season? Are they making the playoffs? That's not really the question I want to ask you, because those are going to be questions for probably next week's show when we start doing these power rankings. What I will ask you, though, is what are the games that you are excited to see when the Kings are rounding out their regular season?
Well, the last 2 games, them playing the Suns to get the final home win of the year, and being able to watch them round out the season with a win at home. And then what they do against the Clippers in LA for the very last game of the season. The Clippers are going to probably be playing for, where they are in the rankings at that point. And can the Kings stop them at that point?
Yeah, I think the mid-pack of the Western Conference is going to be in huge contention right here. At least that's what I hope, because I think that would be one of the most entertaining things to watch. Can the Kings play as the snub guy? Can the guys cut someone's dream short? Or like a team like maybe Minnesota, maybe Dallas, who has not gotten any better, but they didn't get any worse. Maybe they can find a way to scrape in for that 8th seed. Again, you'll hear more of what we think is going to happen during the 2016-17 season during next week's episode. I think the game, again, that I'm most excited to see is against the Houston Rockets. I am a huge fan of Brandon Ingram. I've been talking about him a little bit throughout this offseason on multiple different podcasts. But I think the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, just seeing those 2 young teams one last time is going to be very fun. But I think the game, if you're looking at it from a home standpoint, that I would say, you know what, Kings fans, go buy tickets to that game. I think it's going to be the Houston Rockets, and for a very big reason that I cannot say until we get to next week's episode. All right, guys, that is our rundown of the 2016-2017 Sacramento Kings regular season schedule. I'm going to stop the show right here because we are going to be giving a shout out to our sponsors. Everyone, go to brickhouseindustries.com and check out all their apparel, from hats, shirts, and socks. And when checking out, be sure to use promo code KIngsCourt and you will get a 10% discount on any of your purchases. And guess what, guys? If you want to keep up to date with all of their latest apparel and you do not want to keep constantly going on brickhouseindustries.com and typing in that stuff, well, guess what? Don't worry, they're actually in apps. Go follow them on Instagram or on Twitter at brickhouse_IND. Promised you guys this at the end of the show. Joe, I hope you're ready, because now it is time for Joe's top 5 games of the season. Joe, the floor is yours.
I'm going to call this what I think it should be called, and that is the Sacramento Kings fan must attend games. And I'm going to go from 5 to 1. Number 5, February 25th against Charlotte. And the reason I say that has nothing to do with the game itself so much as at least once a year you need to take the whole family. Everybody needs to see a Kings game. It's a Saturday 2 p.m. game. It's going to be a cheaper game. You can get everybody down there. You have time after the game to go get dinner, have some fun, see what the whole new arena's about, and get the whole family excited. Number 4, Saturday, December 31st in Memphis. If you're looking for a great way to spend the last day of your year, go to Golden One Center. After the game is over, party it up out there, see what it's like downtown. Again, it's more of a singles people version of the same thing I just said. Number 3, April 11th against the Suns. Last home game of the year is always a must-attend because, man, the lack of basketball for months and months is just unendurable if you miss that last chance to see it live in the year because July is so far away. When April 11th comes and goes, it's painful to wait until July. It's horrible. So you have to be there at the last game just to get your final taste in. The number 2 game of the year, I say, is November 10th at versus LA. The Lakers are going to be in town, and it is the Kings' arch rivals. You have to be there, and it's on a national stage. First game ever nationally televised from Golden One Center. You have to attend it. You have to make noise. You have to let the entire NBA know that the new barn is just as loud and crazy as Arco ever was. You got to get that place rocking that night. You got to scare people to come in there. And obviously, the number 1 game of the year is October 27th versus the Spurs. The Golden One Center's first game ever. You can't not be at the opening night. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how you have to get there. Beg, borrow, steal, sell a kidney. You have to be in the building for opening night. You have to. If you have any desire to care about this team, you have to be in the building that night because I guarantee the celebrations are going to be amazing. So that is my top 5. Can't wait for next week when we talk about our way too early rankings. But I think that I think it's going to be a very entertaining year.
Joe, you bringing up that very first game in the new Golden One Arena. Let me ask you, being one of the biggest fan supporters of this show, you draw in so many fans because you are in every dang fan chat room. You talk with everyone, and that's why I love you. But, you know, one of the big things about this show that our listeners love is the fact that we are one of the very few shows that actually give out tickets and sell tickets to the fans. We actually won last year the Sacramento Proud Award for selling how many tickets, Joe?
By the end of the year, I think the total number was 847.
We sold 847
No, we
tickets.
didn't sell them. We gave away half and sold about half. I'd
Wow.
have to get the exact
Still.
numbers out, but yeah, that's right about where it was.
Still, we've given away and sold over 847 tickets just from this show alone, just so you guys can go see the Kings play. And now it's going to be in the brand new arena. Joe, let me just ask you the question that I want to get to is, are you going to be having tickets for the opening night game?
I don't know if they're going to offer them yet. I am still waiting on the price sheet to come out. We are, I can't tell you exactly how high up we are on the list, but we're fairly high on the list to where we will get whatever games we ask for, which reminds me, tweet at Sac Sports Morgan and help me figure out what you guys want to go to. Let me know what games are the most important for fans to see so that I can talk to the ticket people and find the right games. But yeah, there will be a lot of tickets this year. I can't guarantee any specific games yet.
All right, guys, but another way you guys can help us and make sure that we continue to grow, not on just the list that Joe is talking about, but just in list in general and making this viewership go up, because the more views we have, the more things we can do, and the more income we can actually bring into the show and help grow the show. And the only way we can do that is by your guys' support. So after you get done listening to this show, and if you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button, whether you're a subscriber or not a subscriber. Do us a huge favor and leave us a rating wherever you seem to be listening, whether it's YouTube now, whether it's on Stitcher, whether it's on iTunes. Hit that subscribe button, leave us a rating, and guess what? Hit that share button, because we want more people listening so we can help out more fans that probably want to win tickets or probably want to buy tickets, because guess what? The Kings Court does that. So hit that subscribe button, leave a rating. Joe, before we sign off, let the fans one more time know where they can find you online.
You can always find me at Sac Sports Morgan on Twitter. I am on it all day. I will respond. I want to talk to you guys. I want to hear what you think.
You guys can follow me on all social media platforms of @VMCenter. Be sure to subscribe to SacKingsNation.com for all of your in-depth coverage of the Sacramento Kings. Again, subscribe, leave a rating, and until next time, Sacramento Kings fans, bye-bye.